Welcome! You're ready now to turn in your process work for English 310. The first step is to get your files all organized. If you haven't already, you should create a folder for each of the papers that you've completed during this unit, and move all of the files that have to do with that paper into the folder. This will allow you to organize the files easily without having other unnecessary files cluttered in among them. Now that you have your files all in one place, take a moment to look over the names of the files. Is it clear from the name of the file what is contained within the file? Can you tell just from looking at them which file has to go with the first rough draft, which file happens to be what you did after your peers revised it? If not, it's time to rename the files. At a minimum, you want your file name to identify which paper this is associated with, as well as which draft or step of the writing process it represents. One useful trick is to put a number at the beginning of the file names. You're essentially numbering the files in the order that they occurred. It makes it easy to see the overall writing process at a glance. One word of warning: you should avoid using special symbols in your file names, such as the £, backslash, ampersand, exclamation point, because Blackboard has trouble handling them. Now that you're all organized, it's time to go back into Blackboard, into the Assignments section, where you can click on the process checklist for the paper that you're ready to turn in. Just as when you filled out your participation self-evaluation form, you're going to want to scroll down and open up the most up-to-date version of the process checklist. You'll of course want to begin by putting your name at the top and saving a copy of the file. Then, before you go any further, I would actually open up two windows side by side, one of this process checklist and one of your files. Doing this will make it easier to type in the file names directly onto the process checklist as you're filling it out. You could also save yourself some time by cutting and pasting the file names directly onto the process checklist. If you hit parts of the checklist that are grayed out because they were not required for this paper, but you actually completed these steps anyhow, feel free to go ahead and modify the checklist to reflect the fact that you did do those steps. After you've inserted the file names for each step of the writing process, it's time to go through and assign yourself scores for each of these steps as well. Most of the steps end up being credit or no credit. If you completed them, then you give yourself full credit. Pre-writing is an unusual case in that you are only required to do 3 out of the 4 steps listed on the process checklist. If you complete all 4 steps, feel free to give yourself credit for all 4 and essentially earn extra credit. I do ask that you be honest with yourself as you're filling this out. If there is a required step that was rushed, that only had your half-hearted attention as you were doing it, then it wasn't really completely done, was it? And you should adjust the score to reflect how much, if any, of the step was actually completed. You're almost done. Take your time when answering the reflection question at the end of the process checklist. Your answers to these questions will later become the basis for your final exam for this class. So spending some time now thoughtfully answering these questions and supporting your answers with some examples from your writing will pay off with a better final exam score at the end of the semester. Once you finish that, it's time to calculate the total for your process checklist. It is entirely possible to earn an A+ if you went above and beyond on your steps of the writing process. After you save your file, we'll be all ready to go back to Blackboard and begin uploading your files to turn in for a grade. Once you're back into Blackboard, you're going to want to scroll down to the section on assignment materials, and you're going to begin to attach files. You're going to attach all of the files that we organized, including the process checklist that you just filled out. This might take a couple of minutes as you have to attach each file individually. once all of the files are attached, if you have anything special you need to tell me about any of the files, you can put it into the comments box. It's sort of like putting a sticky note on the top of the paper that you're turning into your teacher. It's not part of the assignment, it's just a note for them to read before they start grading. After you submit your files, you'll get a screen that looks like this, and if you scroll down, you should be able to see the list of files that you've turned in to me. At this point, you probably still have one more unanswered question. What is the exemplar essay that you have to turn in? Simply put, your exemplar essay should be your best essay from the unit. You will have to decide for yourself which essay to turn in. You'll have to weigh the merits of one essay against another to decide which one really represents your best work. A useful resource in making this decision is the rubric for the unit. Try to evaluate your essays honestly to determine which one has the best chance of scoring an excellent on the rubric. This is especially important because the exemplar essay is worth more than all of the rest of your drafts combined. Each of the papers you wrote were awarded points based on whether or not you went through the steps of the writing process. Those steps combined with participation total 10 to 15% of your final grade. But the one paper you say is your best work, your exemplar, will be graded based on the quality of the writing, based on the rubric, and that one paper will be worth 15% of your final grade. So choose wisely. And don't be afraid to hedge your bets by doing a bit of extra revising before you turn that exemplar paper in. Whether you revise it by yourself, with a peer, a friend, that little bit of extra revising is entirely fair game. I hope you're feeling more confident now about turning in your process work and exemplar paper. As always, feel free to post questions on the discussion board or to contact me by email. Until then, I'll look forward to seeing your work for English 310.